My wife said she wanted to strengthen our marriage. Apparently, in her dictionary, that meant turning me into a lab rat with a wedding ring. 7 weeks, 7 growth challenges, and one husband slowly losing the will to participate in anything that required emotional enthusiasm. For context, a month ago, my wife discovered podcasts about self-growth, emotional alignment, inner work, and conscious relationships. In 3 days, she went from, "We should talk more," to, "I think you're emotionally underdeveloped, James." Yeah, that escalated like a microwave with a metal spoon in it. She'd walk around the house with headphones on, nodding like a monk who just discovered enlightenment. Sometimes she'd slide one ear cup off just to say something like, "Babe, true connection requires discomfort. Are you ready for that?" And like an idiot, I said, "Sure, why not?" I honestly thought it would be something harmless, a communication exercise, a date night, a board game where nobody cries. Spoiler, I was wrong on all 3 counts. On the first evening she sat across from me, opened her brand new notebook titled Relationship Reset, and smiled like a manager about to announce mandatory overtime. "Okay, James," she said, "for the next 7 weeks, we're going to rebuild our connection, week by week, test by test." "Test?" I repeated, like pass or fail. She tapped her pen. "Every challenge requires awareness, and responsibility, and emotional commitment." "Sounds like a school project," I said. She actually wrote it down. "Is that your resistance speaking?" she asked. "Oh, absolutely," I said. My resistance, my sarcasm, and my common sense, all speaking loudly. She ignored that, because humor apparently isn't part of spiritual development. At that point, I still treated everything like a game. I thought, fine, 7 weeks, it can't get that bad. Worst case, we argue. Best case, we improve things. But by the end of week 1, I already understood. This wasn't about harmony, growth, or self-discovery. This was about control. A science experiment where the only variable was my patience. And oh boy, week 1 hit fast. Week 1 started with my wife marching into the living room like a fitness coach announcing warm-up drills. "James," my wife announced on Monday morning, holding her coffee like a professor with a lecture, "for week 1, we'll focus on digital intimacy." "Sounds like rehab for Instagram," I replied. She ignored that, obviously. "No phones after 6 p.m., she said proudly, "to reconnect." I shrugged. Sure, easy. At 5:59 p.m., I even set an alarm like a responsible student. Phone down, screen off, husband upgraded. Then at 6:03 p.m., I walked into the living room and saw her on the couch, laptop open, typing like she was hacking NASA. "Hey," I said, "isn't that a screen?" "No," she said instantly. "This is work." "Right, and McDonald's is fine dining if you believe hard enough." She gave me the look, the one that means stop being funny, I'm evolving spiritually. She kept working. Then she answered emails because they're important. Then she watched a documentary. Then she scrolled Pinterest because inspiration is part of growth. Meanwhile, I sat next to her, staring at a powered-off phone like it was a trapped soul. By Wednesday, she was watching YouTube videos for self-growth, and I was sitting next to her like a sad golden retriever, trying not to touch my phone. I asked, "So the rule applies only to me?" She calmly said, "James, it's not a rule, it's a practice." "Well," I said, "my practice is dying." She wrote something in her notebook. I swear she writes more notes than detectives in crime shows. By Friday night, she was watching a Netflix series on her tablet. "A tablet doesn't count," she said. "Why?" "Because I'm not using it mindlessly." "Oh, good," I nodded. "The tablet is using itself." Again, no laugh, zero. Not even a nose exhale. Saturday evening, she said, "I feel we're closer this week." "Really?" I asked. "Because I feel like a monk who took a vow of silence and boredom." She wrote something again. Probably resists spiritual detachment. By Sunday, I realized the true weekly insight. Week 1 wasn't about phones. It was about reminding me that she is the exception to every rule she invents. On Monday, she sat down in front of me with her famous notebook and said, "This week is radical honesty." "Finally," I said. "A challenge where I already have experience." "We'll say only the truth," she explained. "No filters, no half-truths. Pure openness." "Okay," I said. "You start." "No, you," she insisted, smiling like she had installed a lie detector in my chair. "Fine." "All right," I said. "I'm overwhelmed by all these tests. It feels like you're running a quality inspection." Her face froze. "You feel overwhelmed by improvement?" "I feel overwhelmed by you," I clarified. She blinked, then blinked again. "That's your avoidance pattern," she said, writing furiously. "You're scared of emotional expansion." "No," I said. "I'm scared of homework." She didn't appreciate the joke. That evening, she tested her honesty skills. She walked in with a new haircut and asked, "Be honest, do you like it?" "It's shorter," I answered. Her eyes widened like I just insulted democracy. "That's all you have to say?" "You said no sugarcoating," I reminded her. "James, radical honesty doesn't mean emotional laziness." "Oh, my mistake. Next time I'll submit a full report." She stomped out of the room, came back 5 minutes later, wrote something in her notebook, probably emotionally incompetent. On Thursday, she declared, "I'm hurt because when you express honesty, you don't care about my feelings." "So you want honesty," I said, "but also comfort?" "Yes," she said confidently. "That's balanced honesty." "Balanced like a loaded question," I replied. She wrote again. Friday night came the verdict. "You failed the task." "How?" "You told the truth, but not in a healing way." "Is there a manual?" I asked. She didn't smile. She said, "You just need to try harder." By the end of week 2, I was starting to understand the pattern. Her honesty equals brave and powerful. My honesty equals disrespectful and immature. And the funniest thing? She kept saying, "This is only the beginning." Oh yes, it really was, because week 3 was waiting, and that one hit differently. Week 3 arrived like a tax audit. Unexpected, unnecessary, and somehow my fault. Sunday night, my wife walked into the living room holding her notebook again. At this point, I'm convinced she bought it not for notes, but as a prop, like a judge needs a hammer. "James," she said, "week 3 is an advanced challenge. It's about emotional alignment and respecting boundaries." "Sounds expensive already," I said. "From now until Sunday, you are not allowed to initiate any physical intimacy. I need to see if you can honor my space." "Honor your space? I already sleep 20 centimeters from the edge of the bed. I've been honoring space like a NASA engineer." She didn't laugh. "It's important," she continued. "I want to observe your reactions." "My reactions to not touching you?" "Yes," she said. "It will show emotional maturity." "Or carpal tunnel," I muttered. She opened her notebook instantly. "Was that sarcasm?" "No," I said. "That was meditation." Apparently, meditation also goes in her notes. Monday by midday, she was already different. More makeup, tighter leggings, hair done like she was going to a photo shoot instead of grocery shopping. I didn't say anything, but she noticed me noticing. "Don't get ideas," she said. "It's self-care." "Great," I said. "Self-care looks fantastic today." She pretended not to hear. That evening, I saw her lying on the couch scrolling Instagram, liking pictures of her fitness instructor. The guy who looks like he was carved out of protein powder and motivational quotes. I said, "Wow, he's very symmetrical." She replied, "His name is Kyle, and he promotes body positivity." "Does he promote marriages too?" I asked notebook. Pen, scribbles. Tuesday. She posted a story. her at the gym, with Kyle in the background, shirtless, smiling like sunshine applied directly to abs. I said nothing, because week 3 requires silence and maturity or whatever. But she walked past me and said, "You're being weirdly quiet. You told me not to initiate anything. That doesn't mean you stop existing," she snapped. "Okay," I said calmly. "I will exist responsibly." If silence could slam a door, hers would have broken the hinges. Wednesday. She came home extra cheerful. "Guess what?" she said. "What?" "Kyle said my posture is improving." I blinked. "That's amazing. Truly. Historic. Call the newspapers." "You're being snarky." "No, I'm celebrating." She crossed her arms. "You know, James, men who can't handle confident women usually have deeper issues." "Oh, good," I said. "I was worried we wouldn't diagnose me this week." Notebook. Rapid writing. She probably broke the pen. That night she got into bed and lay as close to the middle as possible. Her new way of claiming territory, I lay on my usual slice of mattress, basically sleeping on the border like a security guard. "Good night," she said. "Good night." Pause. "You're not trying to hug me," she said suspiciously. "You told me not to initiate anything." "That was yesterday," she snapped. "It's a week-long challenge. James, do you really have to take everything literally?" "I'm trying to pass your test." "Well," she said, "you're failing the vibe." "The vibe?" "Apparently the vibe is graded too." Thursday. She wore perfume to go buy almond milk. I said, "Big date with the produce aisle?" "It's called self-love," she said. "Great," I replied. "Hope the almonds appreciate it." Notebook. Scribble, scribble. That evening she posted another gym story, this time with a slow-motion clip of Kyle helping her stretch. I swear Instagram added dramatic music all by itself. She walked into the kitchen and said, "You're not jealous, are you?" I shrugged. "No, should I be?" She looked disappointed, so I added, "I mean, if Kyle proposes, let me know so I can RSVP." She gasped, "Why are you like this?" "Because I'm not allowed to touch you," I said, "so I'm touching the situation." Notebook. Violent scribbling. Friday. We ate dinner in silence. Halfway through, she snapped, "This distance is killing the connection between us." "Connection? You grounded me from touching you." "That doesn't mean emotionally distancing." "I'm sitting right here," I said. "I'm in emotional Wi-Fi range." "I can't talk to you when you're like this," she said dramatically and left the table. I stared at her empty chair, like a man watching customer service close at 4:59 p.m. Saturday. She walked around the house annoyed, checking if I'd break the rule. I didn't. At 9 p.m. she said, "You haven't tried to initiate anything all week. You told me not to initiate. That was the test. And? You failed." I exhaled long, like a man finally understanding the universe is trolling him personally. "So I fail if I touch you and fail if I don't touch you?" She nodded. "Yes, because you didn't show emotional awareness." I blinked slowly. Right, that classic awareness. She wrote one final note, then closed the notebook dramatically, like the season finale of a bad TV show. Sunday, weekly reflection. She said, "So what did you learn?" I said, "I learned that if I ever become a therapist, I'll ban these exercises for the safety of humanity." She just stared. But inside, I felt something new. Not anger, not jealousy, just distance, a heavy, quiet one. Week 3 wasn't about respecting boundaries. It was about watching her seek validation somewhere else while blaming me for not reading her mind. And week 4, that one turned our marriage into a full-time internship. Week 4 opened with my wife standing by the dining table like she was about to present quarterly results to the board. She had her notebook open, a pen ready, and that "I'm the mentor, you're the student" expression she'd been practicing all month. "James," she began, "this week is about expressing love through actions. It's called Acts of Service." "Cool," I said. "Do I get a uniform? Maybe a name tag?" She didn't blink. "For the next 7 days, you'll do at least one meaningful thing for me every day." Without reminders, without instructions, without hints. "And what will you be doing?" I asked. "I'll be observing your growth." "So, I'm an unpaid intern." "James," she sighed, "your resistance to improvement is exhausting." Notebook. First sentence of the week. Perfect start. I decided I would actually try, just to see if any of this had a point or if we were already cruising straight into nonsense territory. The next morning, I woke up early and made her coffee exactly the way she likes it. Almond milk, 1 tiny spoon of sugar, the dramatic sprinkle of cinnamon she always claims, feels comforting. She came into the kitchen, saw the cup, and stared at it like it might confess to something. "You made this?" "Yes," I said. Acts of service starring me. She took a sip. "It's good." That was it. No smile, no appreciation. Just a verdict like she was judging a school project. I tried not to roll my eyes. Instead, I cleaned the dishwasher, did the laundry, refilled her water bottle, and even prepped dinner so she wouldn't have to cook. She walked into the living room later, noticed the folded clothes, and her face tightened. "You folded the shirts wrong." "Wrong for who?" I asked. "The shirts union." "You're missing the point," she said and wrote something in her notebook. Apparently shirts have emotions and I hurt them. By the next day, I went full energy drink mode. Cleaning, straightening pillows, vacuuming her car, buying her favorite snacks. I basically turned into a one-man housekeeping service with sarcasm included for free. When she came home, I proudly waited for the reaction. She walked in, looked around the entire spotless house, and pointed at one mug on the counter. "You didn't wash that?" "That mug?" I said. "You're judging me by the mug? The single mug? The lonely mug with no support system?" "Acts of service work only if they're consistent," she said. "I cleaned the whole house." "Yes, but the mug reflects your deeper mental blocks." "Oh, my mental blocks. And here I thought it reflected tea." She opened her notebook. Another note. Probably deflects responsibility onto mugs. Later that week, trying to be intuitive like she demanded, I cooked her dinner. Pasta, salad, garlic bread, the whole romantic home meal package. She sat down, took one bite, and frowned. "You used too much salt." "Okay," I said, "but taste the love." The salt overpowers the love. "So, I lose points?" "This isn't about points." "Right," I nodded. "It's about salt crimes." She didn't appreciate my attempt at humor. She reached for her notebook again. The next day, I bought her flowers, nice ones. Her favorite ones. The ones she once pointed at in a movie and whispered, "These make me emotional." I handed them to her, smiling, expecting at least something positive. She looked at the bouquet. "You only bought these because of the challenge." "Well, yes," I said. "That's literally the theme of the week. If it doesn't come naturally, it's not meaningful. So if I do acts of service consciously, it's fake. If I do them by accident, then it's pure." "Exactly," she said. "Oh, great. The goal is to accidentally be a perfect husband. I'll get right on that." She wrote something again. Possibly, sarcasm intensifies under pressure. By the end of the week, I had done everything a person could do without being legally classified as a domestic worker. I reorganized the pantry, fixed a cabinet, scrubbed the bathtub, and even washed her car, inside and out. When she got home, she inspected the house like she was appraising real estate. After a long silence, she said, "I can feel you did all this from stress, not love." "Stress? I've been cleaning like a caffeinated Disney princess." "Yes," she nodded, "and that's exactly the issue. Your energy was off." "My energy? You asked for actions, not vibes?" "Vibes matter." "So do spines," I said. She flipped her notebook closed like it offended her. That Sunday, during the final reflection session, she delivered the verdict. "You didn't pass this week." "I didn't pass service?" I repeated. "I've done more chores this week than our Roomba has done in a year." "You performed actions," she said calmly. but none of them came from deep compassion. How deep do you want? Underground? Should I meditate in the basement first? She exhaled dramatically. You still don't understand emotional labor. You're right, I said. My emotional labor is tired and wants to go on strike. She wrote one final note, closed the notebook, and announced, hopefully next week will be easier for you. Narrator voice in my head. It was not going to be easier because week 5 was the week where she tried to silence my emotions and got upset when it worked. Week 5 began like a threat disguised as enlightenment. My wife sat me down on the couch, crossed her legs, and opened her notebook with the same energy judges open legal files. James, she said softly, like a meditation app. This week is about inner peace. That sounds suspicious, I replied. This is called the week of silence. In any conflict, disagreement, or triggering moment, you will remain silent. Silent? Yes, no arguing, no reacting, no defending, just silence, presence. Calm energy. So, I shut up while you talk? It's not shutting up, she corrected. It's emotional grounding. I see, I said. Grounding, but for husbands. Exactly. She smiled I didn't, because I already knew this week was not going to be about peace. It was going to be about surviving verbal tornadoes with a neutral face. 2 hours later, she started the first tornado. She walked into the kitchen while I was taking out the trash and said casually, "Did you know my ex used to cook dinner every Friday without being asked? Just saying." I froze mid-step, holding a bag of garbage like a hostage. I wanted to say, "Good for him, hope he's still cooking for someone," but weekly rules. So I stayed silent. She glanced back. "You have nothing to say?" I slowly shook my head. She squinted. "Are you doing the silence thing already?" I nodded. She rolled her eyes. Wow, that was fast. Notebook came out. She wrote, I'm guessing, emotionally avoidant. Great start. Later that night she tried again. This time on the couch, she casually dropped, "You know Kyle, my trainer, he said I have really strong legs for someone who doesn't work out every day." Kyle again. I inhaled through my nose like I was preparing for a colonoscopy. I stayed quiet. She stared at me. "You're not curious what else he said?" I shook my head lightly. She frowned. "That's rude, James. I'm sharing." I nodded politely. The way flight attendants nod when someone complains about turbulence. She sighed dramatically, stood up, walked to the bedroom, and slammed the door. Silently, of course. The next morning, she decided to go full Olympics-level provocation. She said during breakfast, "I had a dream last night. There was this really handsome guy, no idea who he was, but wow." I took a sip of coffee. Silence. "So you're not even a little jealous?" she asked. I shook my head again. She blinked like I insulted gravity. "You're seriously not going to ask about it?" Another sip of coffee. Notebook scribble, scribble, scribble. I think she almost carved through the page. By midweek, she escalated to sarcasm on steroids. While we were making dinner, she turned to me and asked, "Do you ever regret that I'm the only woman you've been with? Maybe you just don't know what good chemistry feels like." I internally died. But outside? Calm. Silent. Zen master with trauma. She leaned closer. "Nothing? Seriously?" I shook my head. "You're becoming cold," she snapped, "completely cold." I opened my palms in a "what do you want" gesture. She apparently did not want gestures. She stormed off again. That night, while brushing her hair in the mirror, she said loud enough for me to hear, "I bet other husbands would actually fight for their wives." Silence. She turned to me furious. "Say something!" I shook my head, pointing at the metaphorical weekly contract hovering above my soul. "You're impossible," she said, and marched away, slamming the bathroom door. At this point, even the doors were tired. The moment she truly lost, it was Friday evening. We were sitting in the living room. She was scrolling her phone, I was reading. Peaceful, right? Wrong. She suddenly said, "You know what your problem is? You don't care. If I left tomorrow, you wouldn't even notice." Normally, I would have said something like, "I'd notice the extra closet space just to annoy her." But nope, silent monk mode. I closed my book gently, looked at her, nodded. She stared like I'd personally ended her favorite Netflix show. "Are you seriously nodding right now?" I nodded again. She bolted up from the couch. "You're emotionally unavailable." I wanted to say, "I'm emotionally unplugged because you assigned me flight mode, but rules are rules." Instead, I pressed my lips together and nodded a third time. Slow, dramatic. She made a sound somewhere between a gasp and a scream and left the room notebook, the angriest scribbling of the year. By Sunday, she was exhausted, her hair messy, her voice tired, her notebook almost full. She sat down across from me for the weekly reflection session, looking like a war survivor. "I don't know who you were this week," she said. "You were cold, distant, robotic, clinical, like talking to a wall." I nodded sympathetically. "I didn't feel loved," she continued. "Not once." I nodded again. "And I think you failed this week." I raised my eyebrows. "You didn't communicate. You didn't express anything. You didn't fight for us." I took a slow breath, leaned back, and finally spoke. The first sentence of the entire week. "You told me not to." She blinked. "What?" "You told me to stay silent during conflict," I said calmly. "I did exactly that." "That's not how it works. It's literally the rule. You took it too literally. So I fail for following your instructions?" "Yes," she snapped. And that was the moment something inside me quietly clicked. Not pain, not anger, just a switch. A very tired switch saying, "This is not peace, this is not growth. This is someone setting fires and punishing me for the smoke." I didn't argue, didn't fight, didn't defend. I just looked at her and thought, if silence makes you angry, maybe you never wanted peace. You wanted noise you could blame me for. Week 5 ended not with a fight, but with me realizing just how far away from her I already felt. And week 6? That was the week she went for my bank accounts. Week 6 didn't start with a speech. It started with a question, a dangerous one. My wife sat down next to me on the couch, closed her notebook like she was switching to a new tactic, and said, "James, do you trust me? Every married man knows this is a trap. It's not a question. It's a pop quiz with no correct answer." I tried the safest response. "I think so?" She nodded slowly. "Then this week you're going to show it." "Oh good," I sighed. "Another adventure." "This one is very important," she said. "It's called financial transparency." I blinked. "Sounds like something accountants go to prison over." "Don't joke," she said. "This week we both give each other full access to our finances, total openness, no secrets, no hidden spending." "That's fine," I shrugged. "I'm not secretly buying yachts." "It's not about yachts," she said. "It's about trust. So, you want passwords, bank login, transaction history?" "Yes," she said calmly. Too calmly. "I need to see everything." "You need to see everything?" "Yes, James. If we want a conscious marriage, we need conscious money." I stared at her for a full 5 seconds. "Did a podcast tell you to say that?" She didn't even deny it. That evening, we exchanged login info. She looked through my accounts like an FBI agent with a grudge. "What's this $19.99 subscription?" "A workout app." "You don't work out." I was inspired for 4 minutes. She wrote something in her notebook. "Of course." "What's this $8.99? "Spotify." "You barely listen to music." "Because I'm married." Notebook, scribble, judgment. Meanwhile, I opened her accounts. She had 3, one for bills, one for self-care, one labeled "Do not open unless discussed." I pointed at the third one. "What's this?" "That's private." "You said full access." "Yes, but that's emotional money." "What the hell is emotional money?" "It's money I use when I don't want to explain what I'm feeling." "That's literally hiding expenses." "No, James," she said seriously. "It's protecting my inner world." I closed the app to protect my inner world. 2 days passed. Everything seemed normal until I checked our joint account to pay a bill and saw a charge. $1,780. Inner Goddess Awakening Retreat. My soul left my body, checked the receipt, came back, and left again. I walked into the living room holding my phone like a smoking gun. "Hey," I said slowly, "did you buy something for almost $2,000? She looked up from her yoga mat. "Oh, the retreat? Yeah? The what?" "Inner Goddess Awakening Retreat," she repeated, then added proudly, "It's for healing." "Healing what? Your relationship with money?" "It's important," she said. "I need to reconnect with my feminine power." "Why does your feminine power cost more than our monthly rent?" She rolled her eyes. "James, don't overreact. You used our joint funds." "No," she corrected. "I used our shared energy. Our energy is not worth $2,000. She gave me that calm, patronizing voice she uses when she wants to win automatically. "If you trusted me, you wouldn't need to question this." "I'm not questioning trust," I said. "I'm questioning why you're funding mythological empowerment with our savings." "James," she said, "this is part of growth. Women need space to rise." "Rise? To where? The financial stratosphere?" She sighed deeply. "You're being dramatic." "I am being dramatic," I said, "because you bought a personality upgrade with my debit card." Notebook. Scribble, scribble, scribble. That night, she sat on the bed cross-legged, completely calm. "James," she said, "you're showing a lot of insecurity around money. This week is supposed to help us trust each other." "So you spend our savings," I replied, "and I'm insecure?" "Yes," she said seriously. "That's exactly what insecurity sounds like." My mouth dropped open. She continued, "Your reaction proves you're not financially evolved, yet I hope by the end of the week you'll grow through this." Grow. Through this. Grow through watching her spend money like spiritual Amazon Prime. The next day, I tried to talk rationally. I said, "Look, I just want to understand why you didn't ask me first." She answered with, "Because asking would mean I don't trust myself, and self-doubt is the enemy of feminine rebirth." I stared at her. "Please tell me feminine rebirth is not chapter 3 of the retreat manual. It's chapter 1, she said proudly. Of course it was. By Saturday evening, I hit my limit. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the retreat charge again. The number on the screen, the receipt, the description, includes sacred drumming circle, moon bathing rituals, goddess invocations. I whispered, "I paid for moon bathing." My wife walked in. "Are you still upset?" "Upset?" I repeated. "I'm past upset. I'm in the acceptance stage of bankruptcy." She put her hand on my shoulder. "James, you have to trust the process." "I do trust the process," I said. "Your process is just very expensive." She sat down and gave me the final verdict of week 6. "You haven't passed. You reacted with fear instead of trust. And you spent our savings instead of asking." "That," she replied, "was part of the lesson." I opened my mouth, closed it, opened it again, and finally said, "This is insane." She stared at me like I had insulted the moon rituals. "You clearly need more emotional growth." I didn't answer. For the first time, I wasn't confused or hurt or frustrated. I was done. Something snapped quietly, not loudly, not angrily, just stopped. She didn't notice, but I did. And that tiny snap was the moment the marriage started ending. Because week 7? That was the week everything turned around. And not in the way she expected. By the time week 7 rolled around, I was tired in a very specific way. Not the I need sleep tired, the I need a different life tired. She sat down across from me on Sunday evening with her notebook like always, the sacred ritual of weekly evaluation. Okay, she said, we've had 6 powerful weeks. I almost choked. Powerful? Yes. Discomfort is growth. Resistance means we're close to a breakthrough. In that case, I said, I've been breaking through since week 1. She ignored me. This week, she continued, is special. It's called your turn. I blinked. My turn? Yes. You get to propose a challenge, something to help our relationship. I'll follow your lead. I'm ready to grow too. She said it with this confident smile, like she already knew whatever I'd say would be easy to spin in her favor. That was her mistake. I leaned back, thought for a second, and said, okay, my challenge is simple. I'm listening, she said, pen ready. For 1 week, I said, you don't control anything. No tests, no rules, no evaluations, no notes, no podcasts, no retreats, no growth talks. You just live, no managing me, no analyzing me, no grading me, no experiments. She stared at me like I'd suggested we live on Mars. That's not a real challenge, she said quickly. It is, I replied. It's the only one I actually want. That's not structure, James. That's avoidance. That's peace, I said. You know, the thing you keep saying you want. She let out a short laugh. You really don't understand self-development, do you? No, I said. I understand it fine. I just don't want to be your personal science project anymore. She crossed her arms. So your big, deep, meaningful challenge is that I stop trying to fix us? Yes, I said, completely. No more managing me, no more playing therapist, no more spiritual teacher mode. Just you, just me, just life. For 7 days. That's not a challenge, she repeated. That's regression. In that case, I said calmly, I don't think I want to evolve. She frowned. James, this is exactly your problem. You reject growth. And you're addicted to controlling it, I said. We're both very talented in opposite directions. She opened her notebook. I watched her write something, then close it slowly. I can't accept your challenge, she finally said. I nodded. I figured. Because it's not real progress, she added. No, I said quietly. It's real rest, and you don't know what to do with that. We just sat there for a moment in silence, not the week 5 forced silence, a different one. Then I took a breath and said, okay, then I'll pick another challenge. She smiled. Good. Let's make it productive. For week 7, I said, I'm going to see if I can live 1 week without being your project. She tilted her head. What does that mean? It means, I said, I'm taking a week away. I'm going to stay with a friend. No tests, no evaluations, no feedback sessions, just quiet. Her eyes widened. So you're running away? I'm taking space, I corrected. You like that word? You're abandoning the work we started. You started it, I said. I just kept failing your quizzes. She stared at me, hurt and angry both at once. This is childish, she said. If you leave, you're proving you can't handle real growth. If I stay, I replied, I'm proving I don't care about myself at all. She opened her mouth, then closed it. You're being dramatic. Probably, I said, but I'd rather be dramatic on my own time. I packed a bag that night, not everything, just enough for a week. She followed me around the bedroom, narrating my decisions like a disappointed coach. Running doesn't fix anything. Taking time to think isn't running. You're making a mistake. Maybe, I said, but at least it'll be my mistake. You're breaking our marriage. No, I said. I think the 7-week experiment did that. I'm just calling it. Real men don't leave, she snapped. I looked at her and said, real partners don't treat each other like homework. That one actually stunned her into silence. For the first time in weeks, the notebook stayed closed. I stayed at my friend's place for exactly 7 days. No experiments, no charts, no weekly reflections. Just real life. waking up without waiting for a new rule, making coffee without worrying if my energy was right, checking my bank account without hoping it hadn't been sacrificed to another goddess. On the third day, my phone lit up with a long message from her. It started with, "I think you're overreacting. We were close to a breakthrough." Then, "You're throwing away everything we built." Then, "I can't grow if you keep walking away from discomfort." I stared at the screen and thought about all 7 weeks. Week 1, rules that only applied to me. Week 2, honesty, but only if it sounded nice. Week 3, boundaries while she chased validation online. Week 4, service, graded like a school test. Week 5, silence, then anger because I was silent. Week 6, trust, meaning, let me spend our money in peace. And now week 7, apparently my emotional growth depended on never saying enough. I didn't answer that message, not out of spite, out of clarity. A few months later, we didn't make it. We tried one more round of serious talks when I came back. I told her what I felt. She told me what I wasn't ready to face. Every solution she offered sounded like another version of a test. New therapist, new retreat, new podcast, new challenge. Nothing sounded like, okay, I'll stop controlling everything. So I moved out, not with shouting or slammed doors, just slowly, quietly, like a person leaving an office where he's been under review too long. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.